Continuing all here on WHO Saturday Sports Line.
19 past 4 o'clock on WHO Saturday Sports Line. Larry Kotler along with Mike Lee, our producer, Dave Braga, doing an excellent job getting people on the phone. We appreciate his efforts as well as those of our technical director, Lou McDonald. On the line with us right now is Dick Enberg, the NBC commentator for college basketball, pro football, baseball, you name it, he's done it. Dick, first of all, thanks for being with us, and I want to go back into how you got started in sports broadcasting.
Well, Larry, it's not very romantic. Actually, I applied for a custodial job at a radio station in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. I was a student at Central Michigan at the time, and they had an opening for a janitor at $1 an hour, which in 1955 was about the best paying off-campus job a student could find, and never been in a radio station before. Applied for the job, and they said, well, you've got a nice voice, and we're looking for a weekend disc jockey. Why don't you go into this little booth here and read this 5-minute news summary and a couple of commercials? And I was a pretty good student, and I could read, but I certainly wasn't. I was there to sweep, not to speak. And to show their total lack of taste, 3 weeks later they hired me. And it's interesting to note that weekend disc jockey job also paid $1 an hour. So somewhere out there there's a custodial job waiting for Dick Enberg.
282-5111 is our local line for Des Moines and surrounding suburbs. 1-800-532-1111, the toll-free statewide Watts line, and outside the state, 515-282-5120. And Dick, of course, you've done just about every sport available. I want to put you on the spot here right now. Which of the sports do you most enjoy broadcasting?
Well, I'm not trying to be evasive. I do love them all, and I hope that comes through in my honest enthusiasm for each sport. As a kid, I was not unlike, I'm sure, many of the young people in your audience. You dreamed that the basketball season you were going to be the basketball star, and in football the year came around, you're going to be the quarterback, and in baseball you were going to hit the home run. And in many ways, my love for each sport, although I did not succeed as an athlete, has carried over into my life now. I really I enjoy each one. I look forward to the new season, and about the time football wraps up, it's not really a great deal of sadness when you say goodbye, because basketball is already at mid-year, and the same as basketball melts into baseball. So, they're all beautiful ladies. You really can love more than one.
Well, Dick, would you love pro football so much as to want to do one of those telecasts that you did last year when you were alone in the booth with no color commentator?
I didn't like that, Mike. I really have to vote against a repeat of the solo performance. I don't like to eat alone or go to the movies alone, and I certainly did not enjoy working alone. I understand one thing, and that is that we all are guilty of a common error in sports television. We all do talk too much, and I respect that, and I think some of those who responded positively to my solo efforts were really speaking out for less talk, and I'm in agreement with them. On the other hand, there's no question in my mind that to take someone of the talent of Merlin Olsen out of a broadcast is you can't expect it to be as complete or as enjoyable. And two sets of eyes are better than one. My job as a play-by-play man, I'm obligated to follow the ball. The analyst has the luxury of being able to look away from the ball to bring you important activities, whether they be on the sidelines or from a defensive back's point of view. And plus the fact, when I got all through, there was a real empty feeling that in working alone, that there was no confirmation. When you're working with somebody in the booth, just as the two of you, I'm sure there are times you look at each other and with a wink or a smile say, hey, that was good, or that wasn't so hot, or way to go, or I liked it. I needed someone to say grunt now and then, or say, okay, you're right, or no, or something. And I just felt like I was speaking in a vacuum. And I enjoy sharing lots of pieces of life, and one of those is the joy of working a game with somebody you enjoy and respect, and that's been the case with McGuire in basketball and Olsen in football and Seaver last fall in the baseball playoffs, that you're really going to the game with a person you like, and it happens to be someone that knows an awful lot about that subject. And I like the idea of being able to relate to him as a fan, not just as a business partner in the broadcast. And I really felt too much alone.
Well, how about 2 years ago when they had that special announcerless football game? What were your feelings on that?
Well, I thought that was a worthwhile experiment because it helped us all to recognize two, I think, very important truisms. One is that which I've just said to you, that we all talk too much, that at times the picture and the graphics give the story completely, and that actual verbiage, no matter how good it is intrusive. I mean, there's no better play-by-play call than when someone scores a winning touchdown, where the director takes a shot of the man who's just scored, then a shot of the crowd going crazy, then a shot of the opposing sidelines and the opposing coach kicking the dirt, a shot back to the teammates mobbing the man who just scored the big touchdown, back to a shot of a crowd. With the sounds, anyone, the best poet could not write words that would improve that scene. And to talk through it, as many of us do, really is, to me, my number one pet peeve, an annoyance. It's intruding upon a very special moment. There's no man or woman that is talented enough to improve upon what just the pictures and the crowd sound give you automatically. On the other hand, what I learned from the no-announcer game is that in this so-called cake called television on sports, that the announcers, some of them are too spicy and some of them interrupt the taste of that cake, but it's without them, it becomes a very bland piece of pastry, and we are a most necessary ingredient in the total picture. We just don't need to take ourselves quite so seriously. Merlin and I, after that game, made a conscious effort to talk less, to try to pull back. If we said something heavy, we try to let the audience digest it and assimilate it before we throw something else. It's kind of like the good comedian. He lets his audience laugh before he gets into the next story. He doesn't have you laughing and already get halfway in the setup of the next joke and you don't hear it. I mean, you've got to give people a chance to enjoy what you've already said. And some of us are too quick to want to fill the television air with our own voice. And in fairness to those in my profession, I think most of us have graduated out of radio, where the greatest sin of all is dead air. And so we're trained to always talk. And some of us have more difficulty than others in recognizing that we don't need to talk all the time on television.
We're visiting with Dick Enberg, the NBC sports commentator, and we're talking about sports broadcasting to start off with here. 2825111 locally, 1-800-532-1111. I guess the one thing that has to be a pet peeve of not only announcers, but those who watch the game, maybe even more particularly them, when somebody says something that everybody knows. For instance, if you're in a ball game, or just any announcers on a ball game, and let's say Green Bay's got the ball at the 20, they're about ready to kick a field goal, and the announcer comes on and says that, well, Jan Stenerud can certainly hit it from this distance, that kind of thing. Everybody knows that he can hit it from that distance, and when you're saying something that really doesn't need to be said, I think that's annoying.
Well, and in contrast to that, you might be saying that he missed 3 of these out of 4 as we watched him in the pregame workout. Now that becomes a significant comment. I think talk is all right if it is meaningful and valid, and it contributes to the total entertainment and reportage of that event. It's the other common mistake is that's Jones dribbling down the right side, cutting up the lanes. Well, the viewer can see that. All you have to say is Jones with a dribble, and wherever he takes you, you can see with your eye. Maybe the one area, on the other hand, where we don't give enough information is time and score. Gee, to me, I'm like everyone else. I tune in a game after it started, and I want the announcer right now to tell me what the score is and what period or quarter it happens to be. And I think we all don't give that information enough.
Dick, you obviously learn over the years to refine what you say. You realize, that certain things need to be said more than others.
That's right. Well, it's the thing, that is one of the treasured gifts of a reporter, whether he's writing it or saying it, that some people can take a whole paragraph to tell you what the next person can say in a simple phrase. And on television, it's the art form of the business is really radio. And I think a lot of people, because television basically draws bigger audiences and larger salaries and that sort of thing, forget that radio is the true measure of a broadcaster's talent. That when I did the Rams and the Angels and UCLA, and going back even to the Big Ten days at Indiana, the radio play-by-play announcer is much like the artist who has a clean canvas, and he has to paint it all, shade it, paint it, describe what's happening in painting those words for the audience. They are totally reliant on his voice to paint that picture. On television, the picture's already been painted. It's like taking the same canvas and somebody outlining the entire picture and then coding it 1 through 10. 1 is blue and 2 is red and 3 is yellow, and you paint by the numbers. That, in essence, we're just there to offer accent, insight, direction for the audience. Now, whereas the radio play-by-play men, and I think that not only in your state, Iowa, but throughout the Midwest, the very best play-by-play people continue to be spawned in the Midwest. I don't know what the reason is. Maybe because every little burg and hamlet has a team and a radio station and a broadcaster. But there's no question as I travel around the country that the best play-by-play I hear is on radio, and the best radio play-by-play I hear is in the Midwest.
We're talking with Dick Enberg on WHO Saturday Sports Line. If you want to participate, 2825111 here in the metro area. Toll-free Watts line, 1-800-532-1111. Out-of-state line area code 515-282-5120. We'll be back in just a moment. How are you doing?
I wanted to call in. I just wanted to be a regular listener this afternoon.
Well, Bob, you're so much of a celebrity, we just couldn't let it go.
No, true, I'm monitoring you, but I wanted to be a regular lister.
Well,
checking us out.
You told me when we were in a commercial that for me not to call you, you'll call me.
How you doing anyway, Dick?
I am so terrific, you almost got to shake me out of the top of the trees. I've never been in a better place.
What's your next assignment?
I'm on my way a week from today to Wimbledon, and which is really a delicious sports event to sink your teeth into, and we're going to have our first show, will be 2 weeks from tomorrow, a pre-Wimbledon event, and then of course we're covering 25 hours this year, twice as much as last year. We're going to have both the women's finals 6 hours live on this last Saturday, and then the men's finals 6 hours live.
I think I've seen most of them so far.
It is one of, the reason Wimbledon is so charming, not only because it's the oldest event of its kind and the London backdrop and the prestige that comes with the marvelous way in which the British host such an event, but it's much like covering a political convention where because you're involved 14 consecutive days, and you start with 128 male candidates and 96 female candidates, and each day that list is chopped in half, and you can't wait to see in the morning the agenda for the day, and we can see so-and-so on court 1, and if we go out to court 14, we can pick up the doubles match between so-and-so, and it just, the way that dramatically unveils itself, unfolds, makes it unique, and I'm looking forward to getting over there.
Who do you think will take Wimbledon this year?
Martina is playing so well. She won the French today. She has won on just about every surface. I think she's only lost one match out of 45 all year long, and she's by far the most powerful of the women anyway, and grass is her surface, so I would have to seed her number one.
How about the men's?
Well, if McEnroe's healthy, he's got to be the man to beat, especially with the field reduced. If you're not going to have Clerk and Vilas, and we're not going to have Borg, and it was announced that Lendl is not going to play.
Lendl won't be playing.
He wouldn't have made it into the quarterfinals anyway. He just does not play well on grass, and it's,
I see.
In a way, what he's saying is, hey, I can't compete with the big boys in this one anyway. I'd rather stay outside and maintain my image as really he's had such a tremendous year.
Okay, well, the reason I called is back to, I guess, one of the basic sports, more basic than any of them. Your pick for the Holmes-Cooney fight.
Well, I think that Holmes is the better fighter, and if he can hold off Cooney, if he can make him box for 6-7 rounds, that he'll win the fight. I think Cooney has to go in figuring the first 5 rounds he's just going to look for a spot and try to unload one. If Holmes can stay away from him and box him, that I think has the superior talent.
So your choice would be Holmes?
I would have to pick Holmes, but it would have to go some distance. I think that a short fight will be Cooney's fight.
Dick, it's been great talking to you.
Oh, good to
really,
chat with you.
It's been a while since I've...
It really has. We were talking about the days back at Indiana when I won the audition as the first announcer for the Indiana University Sports Network. That was back in '57.
That's right.
My color man, you might recall, and I will just throw this out because your audience will recognize him. It was Phil Jones, who is the CBS White House correspondent.
I gave Phil his first job at Old Bill's Radio Farm in Bedford, Indiana.
That's right. That was his home base down in there in the Stone Country. And then after I left, Pat Williams, who was the general manager of the Philadelphia 76ers, was the play-by-play announcer. So that's got some nice history associated with it.
It sure does. I was a chief announcer back in those days.
Well, you had what we call the mellifluous tones.
Well,
Eloquence.
No, I just knew somebody.
We better watch out before we break into the Hoosier fight song. We get all the Hawks.
I know that. I know that. We'll make the Hawks angry. Dick, it's been great.
It's my pleasure. We pick you up. You know, we get some kind bounces out here in Southern California during the football season, and we'll pick you up at night. I mean, your coverage of WHO is just it's enormous, and must make you all very proud. The mail you undoubtedly receive from all corners of the country.
I get a lot of satisfaction from it.
Keep up the good work.
And thank you, Dick. Bye.
Thank you, Bob. That's Bob Wilbanks, WHO News Director, a former classmate of Dick Enberg's, and we're speaking with Dick. 282-5111 locally, 1-800-532-1111, our toll-free statewide watch line. Dick, another call for you right now on the line about basketball. Go ahead.
Yes, Dick, I just wanted to tell you how much I enjoy your work. And I wanted to tell you that the Final Four coverage didn't mean as much to me this year since you and NBC's cameras weren't there this year.
Well, thank you. We, Alan and I were down in New Orleans and watched as spectators, but they had to first pull us out of the closets where we were whimpering a lot. It was like taking the baby away from us in the 8th month for us to go through the season and then not do the tournament. NBC regrets it. I was meeting with them yesterday and again this morning, and if we have a game plan of attack for the next couple of years, it will be to get the tournament back. CBS has it for the next 2 years. We know we've made a mistake, and we are going to go aggressively after regaining the tournament.
Well, a thing that I also enjoyed when your network had Kurt Gowdy and Billy Packer, when those two gentlemen and you and Al McGuire team up, I think you added an extra dimension to the Final Four because as much basketball expertise as all you four gentlemen had, that was really extra special too, in my opinion, and I miss that.
Well, thank you. You've mentioned some very talented people, and Kurt, who's done more great events than anyone in the history of sportscasting, and then those two other characters, Packer and McGuire, who were just a delight to see every weekend. I mean, it amused me. People would always ask, well, do those guys really dislike each other? And the answer is, of course, two people couldn't argue so openly. It's like a good marriage. If you're secure in the marriage, you can openly argue. It's the people who are really mad at each other that can't really. They only say nice things in public about each other.
Well, I think the reason why college basketball is so popular is because you and Packer and McGuire.
Well, thank you. It's a great game. I tell you, it's pretty tough to mess it up. And we've enjoyed the success of the Iowa teams these last few years, and Luke's come ever so close. I understand he had a good recruiting year, and it looks as if we'll be talking a lot about him. I know that they have him scheduled at least for one national game, and we might see him even more than that next year.
Well, can I ask you this one? You say, how many more years does CBS have the tournament?
They have it for 2 more years.
Well, can I ask you this? Is it possible when if you guys get the tournament back, if maybe Packer and Kurt guys can rejoin your network again?
Well, that would be up to them. Anything's possible in this business. Packer was given a delicious contract at CBS, and he did not want to leave, and he didn't want NBC to match that contract. He just wanted to have more input into the scheduling and the development of our shows, and NBC just was not willing to do that.
Sir, thank you much for the call. Dick, is there one sport that you've never broadcast before that you would like to broadcast?
Well, I'm about to do that. It's not the sport, but the event. I've been lucky enough to do almost all the things I dreamed of having a chance to call, and for this fall, part of my new contract at NBC will allow me to do the World Series. And I've done the playoffs, and I've often hoped that I could do a World Series game, and I'll be joining Joe and Tony in some capacity, hopefully play-by-play, in October. So that's the one that has eluded me thus far, but is within my grasp.
Dick, now with the some of the new rules in college basketball, the different conferences picking up the shot clock and the three-point shot, what do you think about it? You saw college basketball. You've been watching it for several years now, and you saw the game slow down a bit. What do you think about the three-point shot as well as a shot clock in the game?
Well, we'll take the shot clock first. One of the things that I'm concerned about in limiting the time is that it becomes too much a game of sameness, and I think that's what the NBA has labored under. Here are the greatest players in basketball playing, but the game always looks the same, and 24-second clock seems to take, for the average fan, so much strategy out of it. I think what the college people are doing by putting a 45-second clock in, I mean, goodness gracious, the Sisters of the Poor can get a shot up in 45 seconds, and what they're saying is that'll be more than enough time to set up all your strategy, but what it does do is deny the team that wants to just play with it for 3 minutes to not make any effort to score. And I think that just it gives the game a boundary, and yet I don't think will interfere or make the game look like the pro game. I think the more important rule is the three-point play. It has bothered me for some time that the little man has been taken out of basketball. Remember what I call the good old days, I'm dating myself, when everyone had a little guard that could sit outside and pop a 25-footer at will, and at the same time you came out to guard him and he could drive around you up the lane and score. Now the little guy, he drives up the lane and everyone just stands there and blocks him off, and he's called for charging, so it doesn't do any good to try to drive. And basically the long shot is, being a lesser percentage shot, has really been taken out of many teams' offenses by reducing the line. In other words, it won't be out at the top of the circle, a 25-foot shot. By bringing it in to 19 feet, I mean, there's not a major college basketball team in the country that doesn't have somebody or everyone who can hit a 20-foot jumper. And we're going to put that three-point play back in. That's going to force the team that has a good outside shooter is going to force the defenses to come out and get him. That's going to open up the inside game and make it the college game I think we've all enjoyed. I really believe that the three-point play is going to have much more impact on the strategy of basketball next year than the 45-second clock.
Let's go ahead and take another call right now. Good afternoon. I understand this is Jim Zabel, our sports director.
You got Dick on the line there?
Yes, we do. Go ahead.
Dick, Jim Zabel.
Hi, Sir James. How are you?
Just fine. I heard you mention our late-night broadcast out there, so I thought I had to call up and thank you for that.
All right. Well, we'll enjoy running into you during the course of each basketball year, and I trust everything's in good order.
Right. You and I had a good time over there in Indiana, and I've been making the rounds of some of the I-Club gatherings, and everybody's talking about the fine words you had to say about the Hawkeyes in the Rose Bowl, even in defeat.
Well, listen, the fans of Iowa in that Rose Bowl game, which, of course, the fourth quarter was not one that'll go down in the annals as a thrilling period of football.
Right.
But what saved it for us, and not only as announcers but fans and just NBC, was the fact that the fans for Iowa were just incredibly outstanding. They cheered as hard and as loud and as long and as vigorously as any I've ever seen. I mean, they were happy to be there, and they didn't walk out with their heads down or leave in the middle of the fourth quarter. They provided us with the kind of background to that event that was really special. And I know some of those fans are listening right now, and I want to thank you for making the end of what was a kind of an average game or even a mediocre game very special because of their involvement.
Well, and then, of course, one of the big things, they had the All-Iowa Party at the Century Plaza on December 27th. They expected 3,000. 27,000 showed up.
Well, I was just there this morning, and it's still going on.
The biggest laugh I get is when I say the Century Plaza is going to hire 3 more bartenders next year. So.
That's right.
I understand you're going to Wimbledon next week.
I'm going to Wimbledon, and then I've got an interesting assignment. I've never studied French. I'm going to cover the Tour de France after Wimbledon.
Oh, great. Well, do you need an interpreter or anything like that?
Well, I would like to find one. You know anyone that's pretty?
Well, are you going to be on any of the football circuit this fall that I'll see you on?
Merlin and I will still do the major game each Sunday for the NFL. Unfortunately, we won't be involved in any of the college games, but maybe we'll bump into you.
We'll be seeing you on the basketball tour.
Hope to see you then, Jim.
Good. You have a good time in England.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
That was our sports director, Jim Zabel. Final question, Dick. Did you go along with did you think North Carolina was the best college basketball team you saw this year?
No, I thought Georgetown was the best basketball team I saw. I thought the way they played in the tournament they were the better team. And that's not going to make North Carolina people happy. I mean, they were obviously well matched and closely matched. But I think if you played those teams 10 games, that Georgetown would win more than North Carolina.
Our guest has been Dick Enberg on WHO Saturday Sports Line. And I guess there is just one final question, I think. Quickly, the division winners you think in Major League Baseball, Dick, for this year.
Well, let's see.
If you can do it in 10 seconds.
Well, it's going to be tough. I think the best team, but they're not showing yet, is Montreal. I think 25 players, they have the best club.
Okay, Dick Enberg, thanks very much for joining us this afternoon. Now a sports update from the Associated Press.